1 year ago, the world's longest-serving female prime minister fled her country. Hailed by Western media as a July revolution, it was an escape from an uprising. Bangladesh got a new leader, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, but what began as a peaceful anniversary protest quickly spiraled into brutal street warfare. Political convoys were ambushed, and construction materials became flying projectiles. Government forces sent to quell riots were overrun by the mob, streets choked with police tear gas, not barbecue smoke. Even government buildings became targets of the chaos, though luckily no inmates escaped. Nearly a year ago, Bangladesh's new prime minister boldly declared, "A new era of democracy, justice, human rights, and brave expression will dawn for all." He even vowed to govern under the students who propelled him to power. But today is democracy, now expressed through sticks, stones, and tear gas. From an Asian economic star to a nation mired in chaos, Bangladeshis have nobody to blame but themselves, blindly trusting external promises. They dove headfirst into a color revolution, only to get tangled in a mess of their own making. Bangladesh is a living example of a small nation torn between global powers. Before the turmoil, Sheikh Hasina had been prime minister for 15 consecutive years. She's the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangladesh's founding father. Rahman, his wife, and 3 sons were assassinated in a 1975 coup. Hasina returned 6 years later to lead her father's Awami League party. This began a decade-long political struggle, including long periods of house arrest. In 1990, Hasina teamed with Khaleda Zia to overthrow military dictator General Ershad, but their alliance crumbled. The two women became fierce rivals. Hasina became PM in 1996, lost to Zia, then both were jailed in 2007 on corruption charges after a military-backed coup. After charges were dropped, they faced off in 2008, where Hasina won overwhelmingly. She's held the prime minister's office ever since. Her country, once called an economic basket case by Henry Kissinger, saw a spectacular revival under her. But achieving success meant Hasina constantly walked a tightrope. Her government leveraged external resources for development. Yet, balancing global powers forced them to sacrifice many economic gains. Crucial national projects were split or abandoned due to foreign interference. The US and Western powers pressured Hasina's government. This was evident before the early 2024 elections. Hasina publicly claimed the US pressured her to allow a military base. A key reason she stood firm was India's stance. Hasina maintained close ties with India, who had protected her after her father's assassination. India also sought to influence Bangladesh's internal affairs. Bangladesh joined India's Indo-Pacific Maritime Initiative and allowed India transit rights. Meanwhile, China significantly increased support for Bangladesh's economic and social development. Chinese companies moved industrial supply chains to Bangladesh, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. Neighboring Myanmar's crisis also added to the regional instability. Beneath Bangladesh's stable surface were domestic undercurrents. The ruling party, opposition, and military. From outside, geopolitical calculations by global powers fueled the tension. The 2024 elections unfolded against this backdrop. On January 7th, Bangladeshi voters cast their ballots. Hasina's ruling coalition claimed victory, but with less than overwhelming support. The opposition accused fraud and called for a boycott. Amidst this, in June 2024, the Supreme Court decided to restore the quota system for public service. This system, created by Hasina's father, reserved 56% of government jobs for specific groups. Crucially, 30% of entry-level positions were for relatives of 1971 freedom fighters. Only 44% of jobs were open for merit-based recruitment. This system was abolished in 2018, but Hasina wanted to restore it in 2024. She hoped to strengthen ties with influential allies and the military. But then, Bangladesh's economy was struggling with high youth unemployment and rising costs. On July 1, 2024, thousands of Dhaka University students protested the quota system's restoration. The movement quickly spread, drawing tens of thousands across major cities. On July 13th, Prime Minister Hasina condemned the movement, labeling participants Rajakars traitors. She ordered a harsh crackdown, curfews, internet restrictions, and security force deployment. Facing protest pressure, on July 21st, the Supreme Court adjusted the quota, reducing it to 5% for relatives. Student demands were largely met, and the situation began to calm. However, once the curfew lifted and internet restored, the situation took a new turn. On July 24th, student leaders issued an ultimatum: a public apology, official firings, and release of arrested protesters. From early July to August 5th, escalating protests led to 300 deaths, thousands injured, and 11,000 arrests. Protests against student job placements morphed into organized youth movements. Aiming to overthrow the government, youth mobs even stormed the prime minister's residence, vandalizing it. On August 5th, following military advice, Hasina chose to flee. Not just the prime minister, but Hindu followers and their properties also became targets of radicalized youths. On August 6th, Muhammad Yunus was appointed interim prime minister, pledging free elections and deep political reforms. Yunus, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, founded Grameen Bank, providing microloans to the poor. Hasina saw him as a political threat, removing him from Grameen Bank in 2011. Hasina's resignation aimed to protect her inner circle through the military. Now, opposition leader Khaleda Zia has been released. The president ordered release of arrested protesters, compensation for casualties, and military deployment for order. Some extremist factions call for the coup to continue, transferring power to students and workers. At this point, Bangladesh's future is clear: a country torn apart. No one knows if the interim government can lead to peaceful new elections. Small incidents are already causing major eruptions. Student leaders who helped overthrow the former PM launched a new party, the National Citizens Party (NCP). NCP leaders aim to build a second republic, rewriting the constitution. They claim Bangladesh was never truly free or democratic since 1971. Seeking justice for July 2024 casualties is central to their purpose. The NCP's parade passed Mujibur Rahman's resting place, provoking Hasina's supporters. Feared vandalism, recalling previous statue toppling and the recent torching of Mujibur's museum. They launched a preemptive strike, ambushing protesters. Conflict erupted, spiraling out of control, leading to 4 deaths and many injuries. NCP blamed the state for failing to prevent the attack. If this government doesn't ensure the Awami League cannot stay, then this entire country will be shut down. Why are my comrades injured? If they can't return safely, this movement will spread. The state blamed Hasina's supporters. Awami League blamed the government. Yunus's government promised an investigation, but it will likely lead nowhere. Bangladesh has seen too many investigations end in silence. The color revolution narrative, portrayed by Western media, is appealing propaganda. It promises a wonderful new government and a more civilized society. However, Bangladesh is clear proof that color revolutions are merely populist deception. The people gain no rights. Instead, they fall into instability, prolonged political crisis, deep class and ethnic conflicts, slow economy, poverty, casualties, and chaos. This is the real price of a revolution manipulated from outside. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this analysis insightful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more deep dives into global affairs.